Alright, so here we go. It's my first review on this new channel. I figured a lot of is going on mainly this past week with TNA and upcoming with WWE. So I figured, after a while of contemplating, after some time, I figured I'd start, doing some reviews and getting my opinion out there instead of just kind of trolling around on other people's channels and voicing my opinion there. So, just wanted to say before I started that down below in the description box, I have a few links to some other channels that I've been a fan of for a while, some other reviewers, and I will also have a link to girlwec.net, one of the top news sites. It's not because I work there, so just take that for face value. And yeah, I guess the easiest way to do this is just get started reviewing the show. Destination X. It was very hyped going into it, and I had a feeling it'd be a letdown, and to me it was. First thing you notice right at the top of the show is that there is, the six-sided ring. It's back, and, it's kind of sweet and sour for me just because I knew, sweet, the ring's back, but it was only going to be back for one night unless TNA changes their plans. And, the second thing you notice, Taz is not there, and it was Jeremy Borash replacing him on commentary, which is a move I hope they do permanently. I loved how JB commentated on this pay-per-view, and I definitely think he should replace Taz full-time. But, here we go, jumping into the matches. First match, the opener was Samoa Joe versus Kaz. A decent match. To me, Samoa Joe's getting at the point where he just doesn't have the determination anymore. He's starting to get out of shape, and he just really hasn't been putting on good matches recently. He did have a good match with Rob Van Dam a couple of weeks ago on Impact Wrestling, but other than that, he just has not been the same. This match was no different. Both men hit some good spots. Joe, was easily the most over person in the match. Especially once he started hitting, some of his classic, submission chaining and everything. The match finish came, Samoa Joe, during that submission chaining, eventually caught Kazarian in the Coquina clutch. Kaz got to the ropes, but Joe thought he had won the match. He was arguing with the ref. Kaz came from behind, and got a roll-up. He got the win. And I'm not sure at this point if they're, just trying to build Joe down to build him back up. But, I hope that part's coming soon, because it's really, starting to get pathetic to look at Joe just because he used to be a TNA champion, 2 or 3 years ago, and now he's at this point, and it's a pretty damn low point. To be losing the opening match on a pay-per-view, it was to Kazarian, so it's not like he lost to, Shark Boy or anything, but, it was a tough loss. Not the greatest opener in the world, but, it was decent. Alright, the next match was a open challenge, Douglas Williams of the British Invasion, and the man who accepted his open challenge was Mark Haskins, a British wrestler. I was unfamiliar with him. They said during the pay-per-view, that he'd impressed them during the TNA's last tour of the UK. If that is the case, they really need a new talent scout. From what I saw from him, I'm not sure if the pressure got to him of being on live pay-per-view or anything, but he just did not perform well. He had a few slip-ups, which is why I'm, questioning his, his confidence in himself being on that stage. Normally when you bring in a new guy like this, normally they win, or they're brought in to make, the established guy look good, and neither was accomplished. Douglas Williams did not look very good at all. This match was just slow and boring, and that's, really the only way to sum it up. Second match in a row, we saw the finish come by a roll-up. Haskins went up to the top rope, slipped originally, went back up, missed a shooting star press, and Williams rolled him up for the 3. Like I said, just not that good of a match. The third match was Eric Young and Shark Boy, returning under a Stone Cold gimmick, going up against Generation Me, Max and Jeremy Buck in this thrown together tag team match. And unfortunately, this thrown together tag team match did not work. Easily the worst match in that. There's really nothing good to say about it. Generation Me didn't even go over. Nobody cared about Shark Boy. Eric Young, he's the television champion. He's still carrying around the old TNA World title, but nobody cares about him. TNA's trying to act like he's as over as he was in 2008 when there were all those "Don't Fire Eric" chants, and that those days are gone, plain and simple. And at this point we've learned Generation Me's been released from TNA after requesting it, so that shows you how happy they were with the booking of that match too. So the next match on the show was the Ultimate X match, and for being the high risk, claimed high risk match, the most dangerous match in wrestling, it underperformed. You had Alex Shelley, Amazing Red, Robbie E, and Shannon Moore. The list right there. I'd rather see a one-on-one match between Red and Shelley. All four guys in some decent spots, mainly Shelley and Red. Shelley was easily the most over person in the match. Robbie E did a good job as a heel. Cookie at ringside too, helping him out. She was, really getting under the fans' skins at ringside. So that worked out well for them, but still nobody cares about that character. Shannon Moore was just kind of there. He's just kind of there in regards to his spot on the TNA roster. Although at one point he did climb up to the very top. They don't just have the X anymore, they got the X made of steel above it on the trusses and everything. He climbed all the way up top there, crawled across, and then dropped down to the center right above the X. At that time, Red and Alex Shelley were both climbing the ropes. Moore got up there, kicked Red off the ropes. Red falls down. Moore goes to get the X. Shelley kicks him off, and Shelley retrieves the X in just over 10 minutes. Shelley gets the win. He's the new #1 contender for the X Division title. And Chris Sabin came out shortly after, shook hands with him and everything. So hopefully Chris Sabin can get back. That's a pretty big loss for TNA. He and Alex Shelley, have really been the Guns and Beer Money, have just been keeping that tag division together. And I do sense, for the second time that Shelley will win the X Division Championship, and then he will go along this time to feud with Chris Sabin over the title instead of just continuing as the Guns. Up next was Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn. Not the greatest match on the show, but definitely a solid matchup between two 40-plus-year-old guys who had a lot to live up to compared to what they did back in ECW in the 90s. And it didn't live up to that expectation, but it was still a good match. Rob Van Dam did quite a lot of selling to try and make Jerry Lynn believable that he was still a formidable threat in the ring. But it was a decent match. The finish to me kind of came out of nowhere. RVD hit a 5-star frog splash for the win. And, it wasn't the worst match on the show, but, it was up there. Alright, and after Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn, you had the match of the night. As everyone has said, Fatal 4-Way for a contract. Austin Aries, Jack Evans, Zema Ion, and Low Key. And God, what is there you can really say about this match? All four guys were, pretty damn good. Low Key, with his martial arts style, he was kicking people left and right. He hit the sick double foot stomp on Austin Aries about midway through the match. That got a hell of a reaction. Zema did pretty well. He didn't nearly get as much spots as everybody else, but, for what his role was of being a new guy, really just there to kind of make the other three look good, but he looked damn good himself, too. Jack Evans, the most over person in the match, just his style really resonates with the fans, and, they're always behind him, and he had some sick spots, too. And Austin Aries get the win. He wins the contract after hitting a brainbuster on Low Key. And, he cuts a short promo after. Says he's the greatest man who ever lived. But then when he's walking up the ramp, he turns back to the camera and says he hardly broke a sweat. So, looks like he's coming in as a heel, which is what it should be. Austin Aries is just an absolutely great talent, and how TNA or WWE haven't picked him up yet, I'm shocked. The next match was the X Division Championship match, or the Extreme title match, if you listen to Immortal and Abyss. Abyss defended the belt against Brian Kendrick. I really have nothing to say about this match. I think everybody could see it coming that Kendrick was going to win. They chalked it up as a big win for the X Division, but I think everyone knew it was going to happen. In this match, if anything, was just a clusterfuck. You had typical Vince Russo booking. Immortal came down, and then some X Division guys came down, including Generation Me and Shark Boy. So I guess, because the code of the X Division as AJ Styles just to refer to back in 2005. I guess they just forgot that they, just had a match and they let bygones be bygones and ran down to help Kendrick. Immortal beat those three down. There was one other guy with them, I can't remember who. And then more guys came out and fought off Immortal. And eventually Kendrick got the win with another roll-up, the third roll-up win of the night. And Kendrick is your new X Division champion. They had a pretty big celebration for him. But, that match to me was just nothing special at all. I just saw the whole win coming, so that kind of ruined it for me. And then you had the main event, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. Disappointing. It's really the only, word to really sum it all up is just disappointing. I personally think that they just could not overcome the pressure of topping their matches, especially the two Iron Man matches from 2005 at Against All Odds and Bound for Glory. It was just pretty slow paced and just not what you would really expect from them, especially in a main event where they're supposed to prove, what the X Division is all about. If any match personified that, it was the Fatal 4-Way between Aries, Evans, Ion, and Low-Ki. So, like I said, that match was nothing special. AJ did get the win with the Spiral Tap, which is pretty cool. That was the move he used to win his first X Division title on I think it was the second or third show ever for TNA. So, that's it for the matches. There was really nothing special out of 7-8 matches. I'd say really only 2 or 3 are worth watching. That being the Fatal 4-Way and RVD and Lynn and AJ Styles and Daniels. The rest to me was just throwaway, including the Ultimate X, which is a huge disappointment to me. I think they've also could have picked better guys to be on the card. Everyone won. I think there wasn't a person watching this who didn't want to see Petey Williams come back to face Doug Williams. I think even bringing someone back like Sanjay Dutt, which I don't understand, because if he's doing the all-wheels wrestling thing with Jarrett and Hermie Sadler, why he wouldn't be available. They just fired Jay Lethal, so that wouldn't make sense. God, who else? I'm even thinking Sonny Siaki, just an original. Jimmy Yang. You had Matt Bentley and Kid Cash on other shows. Jimmy Rave. I just think there was a lot more they could have done with it. Hell, bring back Lance Hoyt and have him do a moonsault off the top. I still find that ridiculous that, a 6'7", 6'8" guy can do that. And that always used to get big pops in the Impact Zone anyway. So, the pay-per-view was alright. The aftermath of it does kind of suck with Generation Me being gone. That's just another big hit to the X Division. TNA finally fired Orlando Jordan. So the past 2 days have been pretty big. The pay-per-view was alright. Like I said, it's disappointing. Pay-per-view was disappointing in general. Now it's disappointing, that the 6-sided ring isn't staying. But, that's pretty much it. I'll have some rankings below in the description box. But other than that, it didn't live up to the hype for me. It'll probably be called TNA's best pay-per-view of the year, which it probably will be, which is kind of sad. But, just a disappointment. So that is it for my review. Thank you to anyone who's watched this whole thing as I struggle to get through it. And once again, thank you guys, and I'll talk to you guys later.